Kaylee, ready?
Ready?
We're gonna go ahead and get started this evening with the city of Centerton. Because our attorney's not here.
Can we just deduct it from his?
Well, it's not him.
It's her.
Hey, Bill. Hey, Bill. You have a phone number for her, do you?
She's on her way. She just told me. You can start without her.
All right, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, by the time you get through your administrative stuff, she'll be.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started this evening with the City of Centerton Planning Commission. June 6, 2023 with the roll call.
Jeff Safarth,
Here.
Joey Engel,
Here.
Devin Murphy,
Here.
Greg Langford, Gary Harris,
Here.
John Sessoms, Ben Lewis,
Here.
Tony Davis,
Here.
Brandon Swoboda.
Here.
John was originally gonna run virtually, he may, so just keep an eye.
I just double checked.
First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, which we have two. We have the planning minute meeting that. The minutes from 5/16 and the minutes from our special meeting of 5/30, 2023.
Motion to approve the minutes from 5/16 and 5/30. Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, next on the agenda is the ratification of the admin approvals. Looks like there's an office, there's storage for office or household sales, some telemedicine, animal bakery. Hope y'all got some samples out of that. And then the motorcycle transport service. Are there any questions or comments from any of the staff or the commissioners? If not, then I would entertain a motion for the admin approvals.
This is Tony. I make a motion to approve the ratification approvals.
Second.
Motion and a second by, is anyone opposed? All right, under old business, we have the Acer game, additional parking. I think there was some back and forth that since the applicant wasn't here. Eric, do you want to give us an update on this one?
Yeah, so do a little bit more digging. The parking lot intends to remain permanent after a while and intends to go under the ownership of Ace Batting in the future. Timeline wise, rough estimate would be about 3 to 5 years.
The applicant here.
Yes.
I think there is a,
Just 1 second for me, okay? Just a second. This is the second parking spot, right? So there's parking near the facility?
There's parking near the facility and this one's across the street.
Okay, all right. So since you're here, do you want to come to the podium and your name and then give us an overview of what you're requesting? Either one.
representing, is batting. I think it's a small, correction, the property at the temporary parking. Across the street is never supposed to be owned or never planned to be owned by Ace Batting at any point of time. It is only under a lease for 3 years. Where we would like to, set up the temporary parking. And once we go for phase 2. We would like to shift that parking into our facility where, we'll have the permanent parking facility established.
So so you said lease for 3 years. And after that, is that when you implement phase 2?
Yes,
Is that when you-
yes, as soon as the septic is available, we would go to phase 2. Where we would have the parking. Hopefully, within 3 years, we are hoping that, things would.
Is the other parking lot gravel as well, or is it a hard surface and gravel combination?
Inside the facility, it is asphalt. The temporary parking is on gravel, compacted.
Yeah, the roads on that area are all gravel.
Any thoughts from any of the commissioners?
Any plans for any of those gravel roads to be paved?
As development occurs, and I think with phase 2, that was one of the requirements. For y'all, was to pave at least in front of your
It's in front of our.
property. He's like just past where the pavement ends. It goes to all gravel. So it'll just be as development occurs on Rainbow Farm.
Phase two going to be an expansion of the current facility.
No, it would be, we will be converting that facility into an indoor. We plan to have the metal building on top of the current facility.
The last time, it looks like we talked about paving in after a year of use, is that correct?
Yeah, because that's what our normal policies have been around facilities that we've let them, you know, use them for a year. Now, they have been at the property, they haven't been adjacent on any of them, so this one was a little bit different in the fact that it's not the owner. So that does make it a little bit different. So,
Alan, drainage? Sorry, Joy. Any drainage concerns going from grass to gravel? I know that area is real low and floods quite a bit.
The area's low, it goes to it, but there's already a drive in the way, the south bit that's got to cross, and everything was kind of going around this parcel anyway where the parking is. To either the ditch along Rainbow Farm or to the west side of it across the driveway. So I'm not really worried about drainage where this is.
About runoff coming off of it. Is it currently just grass? It's a house, maybe?
It's gravel where grass was. It's not going to be enough to really change the runoff.
Can I add something to this? I'm here with Ramesh. My name's Eric Jackson. I lived in that property for 12 years prior to him being there for the last 3. So flooding, I've seen some of the worst floods that we've had in the area during that time. And so that area there's no concern of flooding on it. I've been working with them on this batting cage, this facility. And right now, that's just an overflow area. And it's small use right now. Obviously, we help it grow, but there's plenty of space there that we won't need to do any additional grading or changing to that facility. If the road does get paved as growth comes through, there's only so many plots through there. And you know, we'll be able to adjust to that and make the necessary changes once that comes about.
So I kind of like the year.
yeah, I mean, I guess if we approved it for a year, we could still come back and visit it in a year, right? I mean, and
But it's going to be temporary for years then.
Can we say that it can be, you know, it can be gravel at this point, but at any point it does get paved prior to the years, they will be required as well.
we good.
That's my big concern. I mean, if the flooding is gonna be okay because we have the ditch on the other side, then that would just be my only thing.
Historically, we just try to get away from gravel parking lot.
Yeah.
So I think the typical is a year.
It is a year.
Yeah.
The difference is this is a gravel to a gravel.
Right.
In a way, it, I guess in some ways could even be worse, because then you got gravel coming out onto the.
Right.
Right, if it is a pave or doing the other.
I think we do a year and maybe revisit. Or if it gets paved.
Yeah, because we've done that, I think, even with one of the other facilities, I think, maybe one of the churches that came in, I think they may still be a gravel, because they came in and we revisited it, if I remember correctly.
1 or 2.
No, and the one up on, sorry.
Or ball and game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, at least we get to see it again and we get to, you know, if nothing changes, then I don't see why we wouldn't approve approve it. I'm almost kind of treating it like a conditional use to begin with, but we don't need a conditional use. But I'm kind of, that way we get them at least revisit it. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
So I think the preference of the commission would be to leave it at a year. I don't know if we need to reword it a little bit different, that we revisit it in a year, might be the best thing for us to do.
Is it in terms of just seeing if?
So, yeah, so we would,
Still holds up.
correct, we would just, yeah, has there been any complaints? And is there any road changes or any other changes out in that area that might require it to go to a hard surface lot?
Say a year, or if the road gets paved, I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah.
We need to put that in.
Yeah.
In there. Yeah. I agree with that. I like that.
Does that make sense? So we have a conditional use process as well, a lot of times, and it allows us to revisit things. I'll call it automatically with a spreadsheet, and we get to revisit if there's been any issues, any changes, anything like that. If there's not, then typically the conditional use gets reapplied, if you will. So kind of the way I think we're treating this, so as long as there's no issues, then we'll just see you guys in a year, and it shouldn't be any, as long as there's been no issues or no changes, then you know, I can't tell you yes, but you know, kind of give you some direction. That's what we're thinking.
So that's acceptance then for this year. Then.
Yes, yes.
We need to.
So I think we make a motion to approve it with those changes. Just so for the record and so that you can document it and have it available to them.
All right, this is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve MSI 2302 H Game additional parking. With the contingency that we revisit the gravel hard surface in a year. And that the applicant would be required to pave it if that road is paved between now and the 1 year time.
Brandon, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, our new business, first is the track split 2223 greenhouse mini storage, 301 Greenhouse Road. Looks like the parent tract is 20.27, track 1.40, and track 2 13.70. Track 3 3.67. It is zone C2 and A1. Is the applicant here to give us an overview?
I asked them to come, but since they are requesting to table it, this was ready to go until yesterday when they called us and said they no longer want to dedicate all of the right of way along all three parcels. They just want to do the right of way in front of lot 1 and 3, which is the greenhouse retail and mini storage development that we just hashed out. So they just want to do in front of their development instead of along all 20 acres and along Kimmel Road.
Well, I guess we can talk about that next time.
Yeah, they want to table it to,
Good reason.
Right.
yeah,
We entertain a motion to table track split 2223.
Y'all motion to table track split 2223 greenhouse mini storage.
it'll be tabled to the 20th.
Okay. Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, next on the agenda is a public hearing. This is for rezone 2302. Victoria Peak, rezone from A1 to C3 and RTH MF 12, multifamily 12. This is at 974 Main Street. 9.83 acres total, 3.53 proposed C3, 6.29 proposed RTH MF 12. And this is, I believe, at least our third meeting, maybe our fourth meeting, in which we've seen this with many discussions. So is the applicant here? Do you want to just give us a quick overview?
Jeff, I'm gonna.
As a reminder. And just a note that Joey is going to recuse himself as well.
So Chad Galetka from CEI Engineering and that's finishing here as well. Tonight, we would like to rezone forward. So this includes the C3 commercial along the frontage that shows it across the entire front of the lot with the townhome zoning in the rear. We met with the city to review the PUD plan in additional detail and with the requested changes. That we're looking at more information on the open space, the architecture, and then the commercial, we've decided to withdraw the PUD to provide more information on that at a later date. But before spending significant more time and money on the project, we would like to move the zoning forward and then come back at a later time with revisions to the PUD.
Thank you. Kayla, do you want to give us
I'm one of the partners in Victoria Peak. Appreciate your time. The reason for my name is Jason Tinder. The reason for going with just the zoning today is that we've heard numerous comments every time we've come about, just changes and things that need to be done, and we've taken all that in. And it's going to be a lot of work, to review the plans. We've kind of had to start from scratch again. So what we've kind of decided to do is, hey, let's potentially move forward and get the rezone, make sure that this is something that, the commission and the city truly is in theory behind. We are behind the idea of having this rezone happen. We've talked a few times about the density and the amount of density that we're planning to put in, and the maximum density that could be put in is in line with what the original plan for the area is. In addition to all that, we just want to reemphasize the reason for this type of zoning. There are a lot of different zoning options. We've heard a lot of people from the city voice concern about having multifamily units in the area and potentially having many rentals. This is actually the reason for getting this type of zoning. This type of zoning allows each individual unit to be sold separately. And so that's why we are pursuing this type of zoning. Instead of, going with what was originally in the plan, we're doing something with the same level of density, but which allows the units to be individually sold off. So that, this is not necessarily going to become, a large rental area. This is, kind of the future of where cities go as they grow. There's greater density, but it's not necessarily, a large park of rentals. So with all of that, we just wanted to let the commission be aware of what, our goals and intentions are, why we're rezoning it. And really before we go down and do all of these steps, and pay a bunch of cost, for something that the city doesn't necessarily support or the commission support, we just thought it would be best to get, preliminary vote, get the commission support behind the rezone, because, frankly, we can't do the PUD without the rezone. So, maybe it just makes sense to do this step first, and then we'll go and we'll spend the expense and, redraw everything and come back for the PUD. So appreciate your time.
Is your intent most likely still to sell off the commercial?
Yeah, that's the intent behind doing this type of zoning. Yes, is the ability to sell them off.
Thank you. Kayla?
Great. Okay, so you guys have heard this report 4 times now. There's a 100-foot electrical easement running through it diagonally, which limits its use. It should be noted that because of the electrical easement running through it and the size of the property, mathematically speaking, the property couldn't fit more than about 7 units per acre without zoning variances that you guys would have to approve. So that new proposed zoning is the commercial along the frontage and RTH MF12 located behind it. The streets, it's along Main Street, which is a 90-foot right of way, the arterial boulevard. That normally includes a 10-foot trail on both sides. Utilities, Sanderson Water is available along Main Street. Sanitary sewer would be available via connection to sanitary sewer in Terra Knolls, the subdivision behind this. On the land use plan, this area is designated as commercial and low density residential. In the comprehensive plan, this area is described as including larger neighborhood commercial development, which due to its size is able to serve the entire northern half of the city rather than just adjacent residences. Capacity and scale necessitate stronger design standards to ensure compatibility with neighborhood residential. So based on the comp plan and the little node that it's in, the neighborhood commercial is consistent. On the comprehensive plan, this area also includes the low medium density residential, which is 3 to 7 units per acre to accommodate both existing attached and detached housing units. which will help maintain the desired character of the existing single-family neighborhoods while providing slightly higher density. It should be noted that RTH MF12 are single-family homes attached, so they're on their own lot. So based on all of that, this zoning may be consistent. This type of housing, along with the constraints of the parcel, allows for a great transition between the commercial and the existing detached single-family neighborhoods. The surrounding zoning and uses, it abuts Terra Knolls, which is zoned R2 with the max, with their density being 2.6 units per acre. Lane Bridge subdivision is across the street and it's R2 with 3.2 units per acre. And then Oak Ridge subdivision is nearby also, and it's 3 units per acre. And then along the intersection of Seba and Main Street is the Come and Go, the Casa Castillo development, which we just got new development plans for, and Legacy Sport Academy. So based on that, C3 is considered compatible, and the request for RTH MF12 could be compatible. And then there's a list of different items from our comp plan that align or do not align with this request for you guys to consider.
Thank you, Kayla. You're still sticking by your approximate 7.
Yes, the man, the legend, our engineer here.
And look at right of ways, setbacks, the minimum lot size. Yeah.
And of course, the giant easement.
Yeah, correct.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners before we open it up to the public?
I have a comment about now that they're pulling the PUD. My understanding. So if we voted to approve, we have no promises that we could get a PUD if they decide to sell the whole thing, would be stuck with a mates or whatever, no, nothing protection wise. I mean, no benefits to the city.
Correct.
With a land use that's double the occupancy that the surrounding lands have, as far as units per acre go.
Correct statement, yes.
Correct.
Correct.
That's a concern of mine.
Can you read?
So I found this in our previous discussion has been somewhat favorable to the PUD overlay. Personally, because we had the protections, we had the protection of the architectural design of it. We had the protection of the amenities that was going to be afforded to the community. And now what I understand the proposal before us tonight is just a rezone with no protections to the rezone. It's just going to be commercial and a high density with nothing there. I mean, it is what that's what I understand they're asking for. I just want to make sure I'm clear on it.
And you're correct. I mean, that we would have to consider it if we knew absolutely nothing about any sort of PUD. You are correct. So that's the reason that we asked the team with Craig, with Alan and Kayla coming up with this number of 7. So that's one of the things we also need to consider is, you know, there would be 7, which yes, it is double of the 3 to 3.5. You're correct. It would be an ownership situation versus a non-ownership. So one thing just to consider, but yes, the overall density without it, you're correct, could be double. With that, I would go ahead and entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll motion to open a public hearing.
Hold on a second.
Motion to open in a second. Is anyone opposed? Of course, we do have the notes that have previously been submitted, but we welcome anyone that wishes to speak, have any questions or comments in regards to the requested rezone to certainly come to the podium, name, address, and then any questions or comments that you might have.
And I'll just note that we didn't get any additional comments with this round of public notice.
Good evening, council. My name is Jason Fielding. 1018 Terra Knolls. I don't have any prepared speech tonight. I'm just gonna speak from the heart. I feel like the CEI is doing their best to revise whatever it is, it's gonna make this thing maybe more aesthetically pleasing to everybody. I've watched over the last 2 months, the commercial property that's been repainted, black ceiling. All the trees in the back, which were mature trees, have been removed. They've done a good job of maintaining that property to do whatever they're gonna do, lease it out, rent it, whatever. My only consideration for this whole thing is that, if we slap up townhomes that are white, black roofs, and we put them at whatever locations belong that property there. There's still aesthetically nothing that makes sense to what's around the whole environment. If I had my own way, which I do not, I would like to see red brick. Different, something that's appeasing and aesthetic to the community, with the raising spacing, which is north, south, east, and west. I think from a future standpoint, that would be more aesthetically appealing to the people that drive through there. I still see, as a collision repair person, a left-hand turn in front of approaching traffic is the most dangerous thing that you can do. And if this plan goes to fruition, a left-hand turn in front of approaching traffic with no street light will cause additional collision, causing potentially loss of life. You can't have that. I would like to propose maybe a couple of street lights in that area. But since the one street light that we got on 72 took 6 years for the state to build, I don't feel like this is going to happen quickly. Good evening.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening. My name is Chet Putnam at 1016 Terra Knolls Circle. I have a couple of questions. When she was reading the information about this piece of property, she mentioned that the sewer would have to connect in through Terra Knolls. Is there any other connection point that they could make outside of coming through Terra Knolls, across the highway, or any other way that they could come in through there?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what the Comico is gonna do yet, but it's probably more detrimental, but I think they've probably checked already with the utilities. I don't know that for sure.
And then a couple of months ago, at the April meeting, I had read a pretty passionate letter about my concerns with the area. Do I need to read that back into the record, or it's all on the record?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so.
Okay.
If there's an excerpt or something that you'd like to remind us of, please feel free to do so, but
I just echoed Jason's commentary on the right of way and the access back onto Main Street. If that piece of property to the north, which just sold, if it's developed and the way that it was drawn out the last time, I don't know if they've made any changes, but there was no access to that property to the north, so you end up with multiple rights of way getting back onto Main Street. And so again, as Jason mentioned, left-hand turns, there would be 4 additional potential left-hand turns coming back onto Main Street if both of those properties are developed the way that the plan calls. The other thing that I want to just reiterate is if you look at the map, everything around it, with the exception of the commercial, is yellow. That's R2. And I think the only rezone that makes sense for that development, we understand as residents right behind that development is inevitable. But I think from a planning commission standpoint, the only thing that makes sense is to match the surrounding neighborhoods. Putting up double level townhouses that are going to be then looking right into the backyard of some of the nicer homes in the area just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And without the PUD for the protection, I agree with you, then we're just open to whatever the next developer decides to put in there if it gets rezoned the way it is. Thank you.
thank you.
Hello, I'm Cindy Zimstein, new address 230 Townview. And my husband and I are opposing the multifamily residential. That whole area, as I will echo what he said, that's all single family residential. And we just ask that you consider that. The guidelines say that it needs to be consistent with the area. There is no multifamily in that immediate area as the map shows. And we just, additional traffic with the multifamily is a big issue in that area. So we just would like for y'all to consider keeping it consistent with the area. Thank you.
Good evening, Joey Engel, 1015 Terranos Knowles Circle. I think tonight it comes down to what Tony stated about the PUD. Personally, I'm kind of scratching my head on why it was brought back as a straight zoning when there was so much concern, even with the PUD, which affords the commission, the city, a little more luxury on designating material types and open space. But this is straight out of the land use plan. And it says duplexes, townhomes, multifamily apartments, condominiums, and senior housing should be considered for all residential land uses on a case-by-case basis, assuming they can be integrated into the character of a given neighborhood. So, you know, even if one were to say the 7 units per acre is consistent, I don't feel that the character of the proposed neighborhood exists and integrates with the surrounding neighborhoods. So I think that should be some discussion. But furthermore, without the PUD, there's no hope or chance to get it integrated with the other community. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Third and final call. And you let her pressure you like that? You let her pressure you like that?
I'm Chris Moody, 13.5 North Main. I'm the guy with Grapevines. One thing I do feel like I'm kind of feeling badly for Cindy, her husband. They took a pretty significant financial loss on the sale of their home for the approval of the come and go. So they moved back, and very likely if you approve this, they're going to take another financial loss on another residence. And I think we need to give some thought to the character of the neighborhood. That's correct. Those are single family homes. And I do have a question. If you don't approve this tonight, does that mean that they have to wait a year before they come back?
They can appeal it first.
Yes, but.
Depends on what they bring back. There has to be a change.
With the duplex, are they leasing it to residential on a proposed commercial location?
So they're not requesting duplex, they're requesting townhome.
No, I'm talking about the commercial C3 as what appears to be a duplex. Now,
I don't believe that they have permission to do that right now.
but they have a front sign in the front for lease.
I'm not in charge of signs.
Thank you.
All right, last call for anyone that wishes to speak. If not, then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is there anyone opposed? Did have one question. I'll put you on the spot. The setbacks for R2. Are those memorized or in your handy dandy book? Handy book.
525. 7 on the side. See if I'm right.
5, 25, 7, 25, 53 side.
I was testing my memory.
25.
25 front, 25 rear, 7 on the side, 25 for if it's facing the street.
So just to note, I mean, they are very similar, understanding townhomes are together, but the setbacks are the same. Okay. Just making a note.
Also the structures, of course, they're all attached, but with 5 of them, up 2. But then there's also gonna be 50 feet between the next structure. The setbacks are 25.
Also, this zoning, RTH MF 12 is one of those zonings that would have to follow the residential compatibility standards, so we do still get protections for that neighborhood in terms of having buffering and stuff like that.
Any additional questions or comments from any of the commissioners?
Have your list where it says consistent versus not consistent, can you pull that up?
Get where they're all on one page. There we go.
Good. Any other questions or comments? If there are not, then let's have discussion on what we need to consider this evening. And the first one is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan. If not, why? And I definitely think the front half is consistent, fairly straightforward. I'm still mixed on the multifamily because there are things that are consistent, like the setbacks are very similar. I know the ability to have the compatibility piece of it is a little bit vague still, I think. But when you look at and I know that what Ben was thinking here, I mean, there's a lot of things that are consistent on there in the fact infill and some other pieces of that. Is it ideal to have that as the buffer between commercial? I don't think it's bad. I'm not sure it's the best, but I'm not sure it's bad. So I throw my opinions out there and I'll certainly open it up to any discussion or comments that you guys have.
I agree with your point of being a buffer. I think it's actually is a fitting buffer between commercial to have high density residential and filter its way back. However, though, with this, as far as we're talking about consistency, if a PUD was assigned with this rezone, I feel like we could make it more compatible with the neighborhood with the protections guaranteed, but as it is presented, in my opinion, I would say the second part of just a MH12 is not consistent right now without anything being attached to it. Because like you said, if he's already said that's commercial, he's looking to sell that. Well, if he's willing to sell that, They could flip the other property and then we're stuck with what we get because we have no protections for the community because it will be rezoned that portion with no guidelines other than what's with that current zoning. So I concur with the position of half the commercial is within consistent, but I'm saying as presented, that in my opinion, it's inconsistent.
Different opinions on or comments on this stuff?
As Caleb did mention with the RTH multifamily, since it is multifamily, they do have to meet certain architectural standards. Different than
Are they spelled out?
a single family home. Yes, they are spelled out in there. It does state that they have to have different articulations on the front. It has to be of brick or some or other durable material, and have, you know, different colors and different facing like that. So that's already built into the RTH MF12 also. So they do have to meet design standards still. Whereas a single family home, they could build whatever, with no standards. Other than, of course, what are required by building code.
Right, the lot size. It'd be, okay.
Right, but yeah, I'm just saying, so there is still some. Yeah.
So this is a yes and a, if I hear the commissioners, it's a yes and a no, because we have two different things that we're considering, if that makes sense for the record, I guess. Okay. The proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones. The compatibility part of it, I believe, is the fact that it is residential. And a townhome would be ownership. Okay. We don't know all of the protection, if you will, from an aesthetics perspective. But there is some protection. So. And you have your lot size, your 25 and your 25-year setbacks from the residences behind them. And honestly, it would end up being beside them as well. You know, the 25 and 25 is consistent, understanding there are some other things that are a little bit different when you put a single family versus up to 5 units. But so some of those things, to me, it feels compatible. And I know that I probably won't get an agreement from the commissioners, but I will certainly open it up to comments and discussion in regards to this one.
From my point of view here, strictly, I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. But just looking at it as, you know, surrounding zone, I don't see it as compatible.
But we also talked too a lot about having a buffer in between commercial and residential. In those situations, would they ever be truly compatible if it's a buffer? Right?
No, I agree with what you're saying. It's further buffer, right? I mean, the way we laid out, you know, I guess the master treatment. Our land use plan shows, I mean, typically you have your commercial followed by your high residence, followed by your medium residence to your larger, lower residential. Typically is the way you lay it out. However, I know, here's another point, is we're looking at, you know, a downtown corridor that's, we're gonna be opening up to mixed use. I just wanna say we are looking at that in the future. So to your point of being compatible, I tend to agree with you on your viewpoint on that, with that aspect, looking through those lenses.
Okay. Brandon, Devin.
Only up on the buffer. I don't, being right in the middle, it's.
Yeah.
Kind of depth and see is a buffer.
I think I go back to the surrounding zonings.
I think I'm struggling with that. Because we've got an R2, 2.6, another R2, 3.2, another R2, 3. The C3, I get it. I mean, that works. We've got the other C3 going up the street. That seems to be compatible. But it's technically not consistent with the surrounding R2. Your no. Devin?
I agree with Brandon.
We don't have a tiebreaker, and so that one will be an even vote of yes and no. Would all the permitted uses in this new zone be compatible in this location and the surrounding areas? And again, from a compatibility perspective, my viewpoint is very similar to the above in regards to the fact you have an ownership piece instead of the potential for a rental piece, at least intent wise, from a home ownership perspective. So they would be residential. And again, the C2 or the C3, sorry, the C3 has been designated as that for a long time up in that area. So from that perspective, I feel good. And again, I'll open it up to see if you guys have anything different in regards to this question, or if we remain the same as a tie.
On this one, on compatibility, I would say no, because we don't have any protections afforded to us with the PUD. I guess agreement or whatever with that. So with that being said, that reason, I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Ben, anything change?
No. Nothing changed.
Change with you guys? Okay. That one is a no, Kayla. Would the rezoning provide a benefit to this landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? And I don't think the rezoning provides a benefit to just this landowner. We would do the same consideration for each one of them. It's in that particular area. And so I don't think that we are providing, again, depending on the outcome, one benefit to just this landowner. Does anybody disagree with that? If the public is opposed, why? Are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request, or opinion based? Does any factual information presented apply to this rezoning situation? Traffic, of course, was one thing that was brought up. We don't know about property values, but property values was one of the things that was brought up. We don't necessarily, nothing was presented to us that says if they build townhomes in this particular area that values are going to go down. We weren't presented any facts that show us that. The aesthetics piece of it, of course, we have some things that are built in. We don't have all of those, but we do have some things that are built in regards to the multifamily. I think that was most of the opposition that we received.
I also do have comments about privacy, having homes abutting.
We do, but if they went with an R2 or R3, they could build a 2-story home, potentially a 3-story home, I guess, if they got within the 40 or 45 feet or something, that's allowed in that. So I do see I see that, but somebody could build a 2-story and.
Did you say one of the public oppositions was the compatibility issue between RTH 12 and R2? Did you mention that?
I mean, I did not. It was brought up. That's a vague one. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. It is a vague one, in regards to what's that look like, because, you know, to Tony's point, when we're thinking about the way we build out the downtown part, right? How do you go from this single or from business to multi to, you know, to individual? Today we have businesses downtown. We just approved, they're building the duplex, I guess they're townhomes maybe right now. So, you know, those are things that we need to think about, you know, as we think about, but yes. Compatibility was one of the ones that brought up. Unfortunately, it is one of those big things where it fits in, and there's many different pieces of that puzzle.
Yeah.
If may I say something?
Public hearing's closed, Jeff.
Yeah, we did close the public hearing, so give me just a second, Chip. Is there
I will
anything?
say it though. One family
You
home.
will not, or I'll ask you to leave.
I will be happy to leave.
Then go ahead before you say it. Are there any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners? Anything else from staff?
I think I just go back to just one statement that was made publicly. Do we consider it a fact because it is part of our, how we assess, we assess based on the individual issue. Oh, I forgot how he said it specifically, and I don't have the language in front of me. It was with Joey's comment on that.
Yeah, I think actually, Kayla has it in there.
Oh,
If you
that's right. You did.
You'll go back to the compatibility piece. I think you're talking about this number 44, correct, on the screen, where it talks about, you know, consider, and this again comes from our plan, and we consider each one on a case by case, assuming they can be integrated into the character of a given neighborhood. Is that what you were looking for?
That is, it is. And
Anything else? If not, then I would entertain a motion for rezone 2302 Victoria Peak LLC with the rezone from A1 to C3 and RTH MF12.
Okay. I'll make the motion. In an affirmative motion, right? So
Yes.
we make affirmative motions. So I will make a motion to approve rezone 23-02 Victoria Peak LLC rezone from A1 to C3 and RTH MF12. Been training well.
Second. We have a motion and we have a second because it was a public hearing. Kayla, if you'll do a roll call for me, please.
Tony Davis. Devin Murphy. Ben Lewis.
Yes.
Jerry Harris.
No.
Brandon Swoboda.
no,
Jeff Safarth.
I'm a yes. But it fails 4-2. Thank you, guys. All right, next on the agenda this evening is development 2303 Eagle Heights Warehouse. Additional warehouse and parking. It's at 2260 West Centerton Boulevard. It is zoned I1. It's 10.53 acres. And the owner is 2260 West Centerton Boulevard. The applicant here to give us an overview.
I'm Lee Mahane with Wallace Design Collective. And as you stated, it's just a simple addition of a warehouse and a little bit of parking. And what we're doing and address the comments we have for tonight. Any questions?
Well, if you want to go ahead and address them, that might be the best thing to do.
The lighting, we had a question, will the street lights and the parking be removed? No, they will not be. Clarification on they're calling it shared parking, but all the property is under one ownership. And there's existing parking down on the southern end of the property. That will be utilized to make up the equivalent number of parking spaces. Does that make sense? Do we need to designate those on the plan
Yeah, just to show that there's use for that area.
with that, the new piece? Okay. Yes, we will change the dumpster area enclosure to masonry. We're still waiting on confirmation on the septic system on the ADH approval. We will go through the process of the vacation right of way. Point of clarification on that, do we need to do the improvements or just do
You
the
said vacation, did you mean dedication?
dedication of the road? Do we need to do the physical improvements or just dedication of road?
Just dedication.
Just dedication. Okay. So we're in process on all of these and no issue.
So no, the other one, drainage, no additional detention or anything required on that for the expansions.
This doesn't change, they accounted for it in the original pond design.
Eric, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Yes, so, Eagle Industrial Park is proposing two warehousing buildings, under the name Eagle Heights. It'll be built alongside four currently existing industrial buildings. With pavement being added as well as landscaping. So. This was brought before back in 2019, was approved for a year until the approval was expired after a year of construction. It's in a light industrial zone. The surrounding uses are, it sits between two unincorporated county parcels as well as a commercial parcel with existing residential dwellings to the east. There's two developing subdivisions, Kenyon Spring Valley duplexes and Elegance Kenyon, directly to the north. And various industrial commercial parcels make up the rest of the surrounding area, as well as a single agricultural parcel. Lighting on the buildings will include wall packs, and then as you mentioned, the two street lights will remain. I would like to ask that the street lights in the middle.
Yeah.
We would like to see those included on the photometric plan.
Okay. The existing street lights.
Yes.
Just make sure that there's. Okay. But looking at it, more than likely not, but just to ensure.
Like I said, the project has been here for a while, but the streetlights were put in after our survey was done.
There will be 30 additional parking spaces, including 2 handicap spaces. And then there will be 15 additional shared parking spaces along the entirety of, within the entirety of the industrial complex. Dumpster enclosure, as of now, is proposed to have masonry, stone masonry, as opposed to the proposed 6-foot wood privacy fence. Property is currently serviced by a septic tank. There's no plans for any modifications to the existing tank. There will need to be revalidation from the ADH Benton County unit to see if the permit's still valid. Drainage layer has been provided, both storm sewer calculations, and both have been approved by staff. Additional right of way has been dedicated to make the 50 feet between the property line and the center line of the road. So it will be so it can be built out to be 100 feet. Landscaping 8 trees and 13 shrubs are proposed. Sod will be laid around all the proposed buildings. Existing landscape will remain on site. Of the trees, 5 6-foot tall trees will be planted at the eastern edge of the detention pond. 2 7-foot tall trees will be located near the northwest and southwest corner. The northwest and the southwest of the building pair. Of the proposed building pair with shrubs lined on the 2 parking islands that will split up the proposed parking. With 1 tree on one of the islands.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? Since this is an update to something we approved a couple years ago. If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for development 2303, the Eagle Heights warehouse with additional warehouse and parking.
Motion to approve development 2303 Eagle Heights warehouse, additional warehouse and parking.
Give me a second.
Motion is second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you. Good luck. Next on the agenda this evening is PUD 2104. Era Rose Commercial. They're requesting a 6-month extension. As a reminder, this is at 148 Seba Road. It is 19.5 acres. And I guess they're just requesting 6-month extension. Is that enough, or do we need to give them?
We thought that would be enough. We have their development plans in the works right now.
Questions or comments in regards to the extension? If not, then I will entertain a motion for.
Wait, before you do that, I have some stuff to tell you. I want to go back through the PUD because it is so old and there are a few conditions you guys might be able to update so that their development plan more reflect what we're looking for in Sinton. I just wanted to remind you of other things that are in here. So the uses that were approved were the daycare, which is what the plans we've got for right now. Office and general professional buildings, a recreational facility, restaurant, mixed retail, warehouse, mini storage, and then the fuel station. So those are all the uses that they can have in the community without having to come back for conditional use. They didn't really ask for too much other than that. Their open space, when it was originally calculated, they actually took out all of the parking out of their developable area. But I went ahead and added it back in to see if it would still meet that 50%, and they do. So that doesn't really change much. The landscaping is really where I'd like to see if you guys can add some more conditions that we normally add now. They currently don't have the requirement to have parking lot islands and landscaping every 12 parking spaces and every 10 parking spaces. And then their street trees, we didn't give them a spacing requirement. So I'd like to add our normal spacing requirement in there as well. Those are really the ones I wanted to touch on.
What was their proposed parking spots? Is it the 888?
They have approved, so their proposed is 665 across the whole development instead of the 800, whatever would be required, because the peak times for each of those different uses are not the same. So it was previously approved 600 something parking spaces for the whole development, and then per phase we would decide how many parking spaces they need.
So can you? Is this the old one? This isn't the new one then, correct?
This is the old one that was approved.
Are those not islands?
They have islands, but they don't have to have them. See how they've got those 2 long stretches of parking? They don't have to currently have islands to break that up. And then the street trees, really, my other concern is that they have those really spaced out.
Since this has been approved, at what point in the process can we ask for them?
Now, because you could either deny the extension or
Oh,
it's an extension. So if you guys want to add any additional things, I think now is your time.
I think that's probably a good thing to do.
Any concerns from the applicant? Okay. So typical spacing on street trees,
We asked for 1 over 20 linear feet,
20?
but in our landscape, that's what we've been asking for in conditions. In our draft landscape code, it's 25 feet. 5 feet.
And then the parking islands breaking up no more than 12 in a row without a,
So for the development plans that you guys will hopefully see next time, it's for that daycare with those 2 long stretches. We would lose 4 parking spaces, but because of the daycare, I don't think we need the 100 and however many they had proposed. Yeah, 102 proposed for just that daycare. So I thought maybe we could get rid of a few parking spaces for some trees.
But that also, they are doing it in phases, that parking
We'll serve that other building down
will
there.
also serve this. Now, it's not really 102 just for.
Sure.
today.
So we'd be losing 8-ish parking spaces.
If they take a parking space on each side, it could be 4. I don't know how much room you need for a parking lot island.
10 feet.
10 feet. So yes, probably.
I mean, typically it's the same size as the parking stall.
It's okay.
9 by 8 by 18.
Then yes, you would only lose 4, 2, and 2.
I mean, actually, I guess technically they could decrease their islands on the side and put. With the same amount of parking, I mean, if you wanted to.
I'm not worried about the, I mean, 665 or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, I'm not worried.
There is
about
a lot of parking.
that.
There's
If it's filled,
I'm supporting them.
ample
I'd be
parking.
excited if it's filled. Does that make sense with what the request is for the islands and stuff to break it up a little bit?
I'm fine with that.
1 over 25 feet. Are we good with that?
Yeah, I think
On street trees?
it's a long right away, right?
Yeah. And their entrance, which their entrances will all be private, they've got a boulevard that will have some.
You are aware with your street trees on Main Street. That comes come back from RDOT, that whatever street trees were on Main Street. Can't be installed. They won't allow them in the right of way, trying to put them off the right of way. You are going to be. Out of water mains or gas mains. So.
Have to account for some extra space. See, I mean, let's see what they can do and. Take a look.
So they can put street trees, but they'll have to get around degrading the building, whatever they need. On site.
It's an option as well, redistribute them if you physically can't get them for.
I'm saying, yeah, put it on the backside of the sidewalk.
Hmm.
If they put it on the backside of the sidewalk. With that, yeah, you can kind of see it there.
Also, I think I was looking at their concept and I didn't see any. Landscaping around their proposed gas station. I don't think you guys put any kind of conditions about screening around that bad boy. What you guys are thinking.
Screening buffer?
Not that I could find any information about.
I'm not saying this is the answer, but I'm not sure that that's gonna be the direction after the other one, but.
Still gonna be a gas station,
What are you screening it from?
but it's still gonna be a gas station.
So, and then you got.
And it's strictly commercial.
I mean,
It's true.
Yeah, there really isn't much to screen
from, I mean, yeah.
on this one. Because there's no residential around it.
There, there, the house, there's actually 2 houses.
The gas station's at the other corner.
That's on the other corner.
Yeah, it's down here. It's even there.
The other eight, right?
Because it's already been approved as part of the PUD. So the street trees and or whatever that works out to be the number and then the islands are the 2 things that cover you, correct?
But I wanted to see if you'd revisit the warehouse mini storage. It's conditionally if it's fully enclosed. You know, it's like, they're all climate controlled. So it's not just a regular storage unit. But those are conditionally allowed and usually you want to keep that as being able to be something they put in.
Being what?
Allowing them to put the warehouse mini storage in.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of their plan when they presented it to get everything to work. It was kind of one of
All
those.
enclosed.
Yeah, it's fully enclosed and climate controlled.
Because initially it was not enclosed, I believe.
And it was back in the corner. And if when they would have had open storage and stuff is the original concept, and then it went to an enclosed, which seemed a little more compatible in that area.
And it's gonna mirror the look of the center adjacent to it. It's gonna be all brick, same height. So mirror one another there, can be all inside.
Let's say just theoretically, let's say one of the uses changed. We've essentially approved the PUD with these specific uses, right? What's the process on amending that? Just bringing the PUD back and
They would have to go through the process of a public hearing and everything all over again to amend if there's.
Per their PUD agreement, if the use isn't expressly noted in the PUD, it would require a conditional use permit. Per the schedule of uses for C3. They'd have to come back.
sounds like a good comment, something that.
Yeah, so if there's something odd in one of the retail ones, that would still. They want to do, you know, a light industrial or something.
So with that, I would entertain a motion for the extension with the noted changes to the landscape.
I got one question before we do that. 6-month extension expires. What's the kickoff point for that? Is it submit plans? Is it begin construction?
Okay.
I understand that, but what, if they don't do what in 6 months, it's,
Preliminary approval of their new development plans.
is that enough time?
I would have felt better about a year, but it's very unlikely we won't start before August. I would for a year,
It's,
but I think it's unlikely that we won't start.
Moving dirt?
yeah, he's talking about construction. It's 6 months to get their development plans reapproved, and then they have a year to start construction after those.
Sure. Is there an issue with going a year?
No, not an issue. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, that's
I
what
don't think, again, I think this is one of those plans that is buttoned up, and I think we all feel really good about it. So I don't think anything's gonna change 6 months after, you know, so I don't think there's a problem going with a year. I don't think it hurts anything in this particular case. I mean, we're not gonna go change some major ordinance or something that would have an impact, you know, based on things that we're working on that would be a difference in 6 months or a year, in my opinion. So
Is there a reason that it was only recommended for 6 months?
Green felt like that was enough time to get the development plans through.
I just hate to have him come back, miss it a month short and do all that, so. Good for a motion.
I'm good.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve the 1-year extension for PUD 2104 with the following changes that we add street trees every 25 feet along the public right of way, and then add the landscape islands for no more than 12 parking spots.
Let me ask you,
Motion and a second. Is there anyone opposed? Thanks. Good luck.
Before we go through our announcements, some of your guys' terms are coming to an end. This month, I think it's Joey. Ron and Devin.
I think they all respond back. I saw at least.
Contacted Dan. I heard from the three expired. Miss them or? You-
No, I didn't see it come through.
Yeah, I've already, it'd be on the next agenda for council.
Everybody elected, I think, to stay. We have to vote on this?
They all said yes.
Technically, we don't have to vote on it. The next council meeting is the 13th. The next planning commission meeting is the 20th. I think Brandon said you will not be here, is that correct? I'm checking. All right. There's a deck review on the 22nd. A couple things to note.
I will not be here on the 20th.
So there are some RDOT public involvement meetings in regards to the the Western North-South Connector Study. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that and or comment, there's either virtual or there is a couple of in person. So I guess we missed it. I'm sorry, no, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. There's a speaker series on the 21st. And there's a planning official meeting, virtual training series is going to be held as well. Anything else? If not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. Motion is second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you, guys.